In this video, I'm going to discuss responsive keyframe animations. Okay, so I've got a basic web page here and just a layout that sort of shows us this three-column look, and there's really not much to it. If I go ahead and shrink this down, we'll see that there are breakpoints here, and right there it's going to shift from 3 columns to 2 columns, and then as I keep on shrinking that viewport, another breakpoint right there. You notice there's a little bit of an animation there with the blue frame, that single column. And if I go back up, there's a little bit of an animation appearing there, and right there. It's not really too obvious right there, but if I go ahead and refresh this page, you'll see there's our animation. So animation is something that is not just there to look good. It's there to give a user a sense of interactiveness and responsiveness, and that's the whole point about responsive web design. So how do we do that? Well, if you're not familiar with CSS animation, I'll go ahead and just show you how it works. Let's scroll down, and here we've got a breakpoint right there, max width 800. So that's our smallest screen. And as I scroll down a bit, there's our column 1. So I've got column 1, column 2, and column 3. Now remember, on the small screen, column 3 and column 2 are turned off, so I've just got display none for those. But here I've got column 1 displaying as block, and then here's our animation. So we set up an animation using the animation property in CSS, and then we choose a name for it. In this case, I've called it animate div, and then whether it's going to run once, twice, infinitely, and for how long. In this case, because I haven't put any amount of times in there, it's just going to run once every time we shift the viewport, and it's going to run over a 2-second span. Now notice that there are 3 here, 3 animation settings. One's for IE11 and Firefox, that's just the basic animation, and then we have MS animation, that covers IE9 and 10, and then WebKit animation for Safari, Chrome, Opera, and other WebKit browsers. Now that's great, but that's not enough. We can do this, but remember, I've called it animate div. So let's move down a bit, and here you'll see there are keyframes. So we have keyframes, animate div, and it's always at keyframes, and then whatever name you've given the animation. And then we have our transitions. Now, because I'm just doing a simple transition, sort of shrinking or increasing the size of each column, what I've done here is just put in 2 transitions, one at 0% and one at 100%. Those are the keyframes. So each of these is a keyframe, and a keyframe is a point where whatever application is running the animation is going to fill in the information in between. That's why we call them keyframes. We have one keyframe at 0 and one at 100, and it's going to do the rest in between. And it's a simple matter of just setting the left, the top, and the width of each item. And you notice here what changes is the fact that the width here is 37.5 viewport widths, and here it's 100 viewport widths. And so that's the transition that's occurring. Now, the same idea as with the setting I showed you a minute ago, we actually have to put one in for WebKit, for Safari, Chrome, and Opera, and one in for MS Keyframes, just to make sure that whatever browser's loading it is going to show that animation for you. And just to move down a bit, I'll just show you how we recreate that with other viewport widths or breakpoints. Here, for the larger screen, I've actually got column 1, column 2, and column 3, and each one now has an animation applied to them. So that's important to remember, that because we've got 3 columns now, we have to set the animations for those. And here you can see we've got the various settings. So animating with keyframes is great. It's something that takes a little bit of work to get accustomed to and how to best use it. But keep in mind that in responsive design, it is important to give the user a sense that something's going on, and it doesn't hurt. Now, in my example, I've just used transitions between screen sizes. That may not be practical. If somebody's using a smartphone, they've got one single screen size. But you can do some other things with keyframes and CSS3 animations to make your site more responsive and better experience for the user.